Hello and welcome to Authors Amplified. I'm your host, Stephanie O'Neill. My show is a part of the Amplified Podcast Network where ideas echo and voices resonate. With over 20 years at Christian Television Network, I've had the privilege of meeting countless talented and spiritual individuals, and it's too inspiring not to share. I'm just a girl who loves Jesus wholeheartedly. I'm eager to learn and grow, and I'd like you to join me on this journey. In each episode, I'll be speaking with Christian authors who will share their stories and insights about the books they've written. I'm thrilled to have you with us, so let's get started. I am so delighted to have my guest today. I met her at the National Religious Broadcasters in February in Dallas, and I have not stopped thinking about her since, about her book. She is unbelievably brilliant, and I'm so excited to have her today. I knew I was going to mess this up. You say it. Say your name.
Alana Arguello.
Alana Arguello. Yes, thank you. I knew I was going to do that. I am so excited to have you. The book is Unearthing Yoga's Ancient Roots, Exposing Sorcery and its Transcultural Reach. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
So, first of all, let's just start. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, I'll give you a little bit, just the short of my testimony, but I grew up, I knew Jesus was real. I knew he was God and Lord, and I fell away. I started getting upset with God and not understanding some things and not having answers that I wanted, and I started to get upset with him. And at one point, after a series of events, I was in college and I decided that I wanted to disprove God. And I actually said it to God that I was going to disprove him in a moment of anger. And which was funny because you can't disprove someone you're actually speaking to, right? So I went on that and just in my studies realized and found out that God was true, that Jesus walked the earth, that he was buried and raised again, and found out that truth. But I thought he must be in all other religions. So I was really kicking against the goads. And so I started studying other religions, actually studying their academic text and the philosophies of these religions, and went and studied in Asia for a little while. And when I came back, back to Los Angeles. I was sort of this mix of everything, just this different worldly philosophies and religions, a mix of everything. And I started working in Los Angeles. I worked with gang members and gang associated families on the streets in East Los Angeles. And during that time, I saw a lot of violence, and I started thinking, well, I need a religion. So I mode all the religions I had studied, and I picked a sect of Mahayana Buddhism called Nichiren Buddhism, and became very serious, devout Nichiren Buddhist with Soka Gakkai International. And I moved from there to San Diego, from Los Angeles to San Diego, still a practicing Buddhist. And it was there that the Lord called me out of it. So literally stopped me. And I actually heard the Lord. I heard I am Yahweh, and that was it. And so there, I knew that was the God of the Bible was all I knew, and I gave my life to him. And about, when you know the Lord and you understand his grace and his grace is poured over you, I think it's easy for us, at least it was easy for me you start to criticize yourself and your history and your past. I think, how did I spend so much time in this occult world? And I failed to mention, I forgot that I left the academic study of these things, and I did practice some of them to experience before I became a Buddhist. I did try to do different shamanistic sorcery, different things. And so I had all this regret. I knew the Lord had redeemed my soul, but I still had regret. And about 3 years into seriously becoming a student of the Word and loving the Lord with a yielded heart to him, about 3 years in, I started to recognize that he not only redeemed my soul, but he had redeemed my past as well, because he started alerting me, showing me through people that of what was going on inside the church, and that these occult practices and philosophies, this is the important part people don't realize, is the philosophies that really impact the mind to conform to the world, that they were coming into the church, and they were hidden, and they were disguised as Christian. But my husband was military, and so we moved several times, and during that time we tried different churches or tried to find a home church. And so we were, I say, boots on the ground, also seeing inside conservative evangelical Bible believing churches the evidence of this. So the Lord just continued, even just different things. We were invited to dinners at big churches, and different things that were going on, that just realizing that there was a problem. And I had the information, I had the background. And so the Lord just kept pressing on me. And all of this, as a point out in the book, that it's really all yoga, because people don't understand what yoga is. And yoga is and was designed to be that way, to be something that is misunderstood. But yoga is not a practice. Yoga is an idea that's based within a philosophical framework. And people say, well, I'm not studying yoga philosophy, so it has nothing to do with me. And that's not true. We know if you have children and grandchildren, you understand that they come home and they have questions. Well, isn't this just my truth? And it's there's no truth, or there's many truths, or well, that's not working for me, so it doesn't have to be this way. They say these things, right? They get these ideas, and parents haven't had them read all of the philosophers that are behind relativism and pluralism and pragmatism. The parents may not have even read them. Mm-hmm. I've heard young people quoting Nietzsche or Schopenhauer, and they've never read Nietzsche or Schopenhauer. So philosophy imprints. This is why Paul warns, right, about the empty deceit in philosophy, that it comes in to be warned about it. And it impacts us and our thinking. And it comes now through media, especially. It comes through music. All these different platforms are coming in and influencing the church, the mind of the church. But the evidence is there that yoga, a lot of the things that you see in the culture, cancel culture, transgender, all these major issues that you see going on, people letting go of the word of God in the Bible, all of these are based out of yoga philosophy. Transgender is yoga philosophy. Cancel culture is yoga philosophy. And so there's evidence that's there. And the strange part is, and you and I spoke about this, Stephanie, that it's the church that is missing it. It's not the world. And I show this in the book. The world knows, not just the East, not just the gurus, but the secular American world knows what yoga is. They embrace it. Mm-hmm. And the evidence is out there for us to read it. You can Google it easily, yoga journal, elephant journal, find out what it is. Right. And even how it's related to goddess worship, how there's what it has to do with astrology, all of these things, that it takes on these chameleon forms, but it's all yoga.
Interesting. I love that. And it sounds like God used all of your regrets to his glory, because he used all of that you went through and that you had regrets about, and it all got turned around to his glory, because you wrote this book about the deception that is allowed into the church.
Yes.
And that's how good he is, right?
Yes.
That's how amazing he is. Let's talk about the foreword for your book. Ron Rhodes wrote it, right? Tell me a little bit about him and a little about him and your book.
Oh, Dr. Rhodes, wonderful apologist. If you haven't read his work, he's got some amazing books, and he's very well versed in cults and the history of cults. And Ron Rhodes is, if you Google him, he has a website, Ron Rhodes. It was really a blessing. He's such a humble man, and I think he's written 100 books for Harvest House at this point, or over that. So a well-established apologist, and I was very blessed that someone that I know from my university, where I received my doctorate in apologetics, handed my book series to Ron Rhodes. And so he, just to read it, to and maybe see if he wanted to endorse it. And he actually came back and he was willing to write the foreword. So that was a huge blessing. And so he's just been a wonderful encourager and just, yeah.
It's
So,
always wonderful to have somebody encourage you and back you up on what you're saying, right?
yes. He's a scholar but he's also very humble and just kind. And so that was, yes, a huge blessing. So.
That's wonderful. I know you poured your heart and your soul into this book, and it took you a long time, right? So
Yes.
tell me about that process.
So it took, I mean, I would say it's been about 10 years or a little over 10 years of research. And again, with the boots on the ground, it really started with, my husband he's a medically retired U.S. Navy SEAL.
Thank you
So
so much to him for his service. It means so much.
yes, thank you. And so he was the one that really started kind of pointing out when I would try to warn women about yoga. And I would talk about all these other subjects, which again, they're all yoga. So the problems that you see in the church, I can point that this is actually a form of yoga. So, but when you just talk yoga and people think exercise gym yoga,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is what it was intended to be sold as part of the deceit that it was just an exercise or it's just stretching. And so my husband would say, I noticed that there were two reactions I would get. And I would say probably there were three. There were women that have come up to me when I've taught at churches and different, just even if I'm just talking one-on-one, I've had women come up to me that I'm just validating what the Holy Spirit had already been impressing upon them, that they would say, well, yes, I thought something was wrong, but I wasn't sure. And so they just met, right? And another Christian who had more information to share that, yes, that you're correct, that there
Mm-hmm.
is something wrong with this. And that was just really women, though their heart was already yielded to the Lord. It was already, so the Lord just used me to come alongside them and verify that, yes, this is the Holy Spirit
Right.
pressing me that something's wrong. But the other reactions I would get is either people would say, oh, it's a gray area. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, just kind of push it inside. Puppies and kittens. That's no
Mm-hmm.
big deal. It's not, we have other problems in the church. This is a gray area. Or I would get reactions of anger, like actually upset. And my husband pointed out that if you go into, say, you're looking for a sniper, an enemy sniper, when you go into an area and you're trying to locate, those are the two areas you would look at. If people are sitting there, one trying to guard something, like they're upset and
Mm-hmm.
angry, they don't want you to look over somewhere, or when they're acting like nothing's going on over there. My husband said that's exactly where you look. He said the reactions are giving you evidence that there's something more here. You need to dig deeper. So as I started to dig deeper, not only did I find its connections and it's actually yoga, for example, did not Hinduism did not birth yoga. Yoga birthed Hinduism. Yoga is older. So it goes all the way to Mesopotamia, Sumeria, the ancient world. And it has several forms, and different cultures throughout time have taken its forms, pick and choosing. So it's been like a chameleon, literally over time. It's in all cults, it's in all world religions. And then as I dig, that's why I say in the book, if you see the sub, it says 84 postures
Mm-hmm.
to challenge you beyond the mat. Postures, because I'm an apologist, so I'm giving postures. I'm playing on the word instead of an asana posture, that it's a posture, an argument against yoga. And I say 84 because, of course, in this research, it's in their text that Shiva, the Lord of Yoga, showed the goddess 84 postures so that it could be carried out through the sages, the rishis, across the earth, across all cultures, across all time. So it's even in their text that this is what is intended, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so looking at it further there and then starting to look, okay, why am I getting these reactions? Sometimes if people are angry, and you'll find this, if you start to share, Stephanie, with people that, hey, you can't do yoga, it almost has a drug addict effect.
Mm-hmm.
Anger. upset. They may even divide and not want to talk to you anymore. They may leave your small group. And it's like, why are they acting this way? So I started looking into the neuroscience and the brain effects and what is psychology actually saying in peer-reviewed research? What is it doing? And of course, there's all sorts of, it's increasing anxiety actually in a lot of people, increasing depression. It's not something recommended for people with PTSD. It's even psychosis, all of this, but there's a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry that covers it. And then how did it come into America? So then this, where was the entryway? Where did it come in? Who were they targeting? Which the first targets were the middle-aged housewives was the first target. And we now have information that this was a public attack against the church. And that they said this would be what was used. People talk about the occult a lot of times, like Alice Bailey and Annie Besant, and even outside of that area of the cult, people like Aleister Crowley, where they don't understand that these people, one, they got their information from the demons by practicing yoga. And their number one, like Alice Bailey, for example, the number one way to get the church deceived to fall for their Christ, which by description is our Antichrist, is through one of the forms of yoga. And they tell us this. We have the information now. So that's what I've tried to do is extract all of this information, which is a massive amount of information. But I put it in, before it sounds overwhelming, I put it in short doses. So each posture is just a page to no more than 4.
I
So
love that because you and I were discussing how attention span is so short, me included, so that it's so helpful that it's short and precise, and I love that part of it.
Yes. And also, what does it have to do with Germany? So that's another thing that a lot of times people understand, okay, well, Hitler might have been in different sort of Eastern esoteric occult. Actually, when you look at his officers, it was yoga. So I have the chapters on Germany and how the church moved towards a Eastern worldview of God, panentheism. And those were the ones that started lining up the German faith movement that lines up with Hitler. And what were the SS officers doing? How they used the Bhagavad Gita to justify their actions. So just document all of this. The citations are there so people can look at it. What the United Nations has said the purpose of yoga is. And it's very interesting if you go back and study the book, The Revelation of Jesus Christ and the End Times. And then you find out that even pharmakia, when you study pharmakia, that talks about this, people think drugs. Well, it's not just drugs in the Greek. It's actually also what we would understand as Eastern meditation. Now, not meditation of the Bible where you use your mind. Meditation of the Bible is always to use your mind to study the word, not. And people say, oh, it's not to empty your mind. Yes, yoga in a sense can empty your mind, but the goal of yoga is actually not to empty your mind. This is another misunderstanding of yoga. The goal of yoga is to change your mind. And now there's also evidence that it changes your mind to a liberal worldview. So America, as we are hoping for a brighter future now, and we are trying to move forward, we need to ask ourselves why, how did we get this far in the first place? Mm-hmm. Because Romans 1 tells us that pagan worship is the precursor, the course directive to immorality. Immorality comes after pagan worship. Romans 1, if we read it straight through, this is what it is, right? The worship of the creation, then the reprobate mind. And cultural anthropology evidence shows the exact same thing. So it's just a part of the historical footprints, and we see these patterns over and over again. So when we see immorality in America, when we see it in the church, the first question is, what's the pagan worship? And if you ask me, and I can show you that pagan worship is a form of yoga.
Mm-hmm. It's also intriguing. Like I could sit and listen to you talk for hours. You're just so brilliant, and I can tell that you know the theme of this forward and backward, and it's all truth, and it's all in your book. And I'm going to suggest to everyone to get Unearthing Yoga's Ancient Roots, because deception is real and it's in the church. And it's an easy, it sounds so overwhelming, but you've made it to where it's an easy read, and I love that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was the goal. That took a while to put it in the order and it's meant to be read the beginning. It'll be very like some people will want to jump, oh, I want to read the part about the Nazis, right? And I really recommend people read it from the beginning to the end because there's an order and a pattern. And as you noticed, I bold words and I suggest in the intro, if you write those words down in a journal, and then you will start to see the patterns and what it has to do with with the biblically prophesied end time sorcery.
Mhm.
And you can follow that line and understand it, and then you'll hear the things, even how it's making us into the image of Antichrist.
Right, right. I know in one of your endorsements, it said knowledge is power.
Mm.
And that is exactly what I felt like I was getting from this book. Knowledge that we need for the end times.
Yes, the discernment, and people forget deception is meant to be deceiving. So
Right.
the second we think, even myself, the second we think, oh, I'm not being deceived. Well, we have to examine ourselves. And the biggest part is our heart yielded to the Lord. And I've had women before ask me, oh my goodness, well, how do I know all these different things? Well, doesn't mean you have to memorize my book or memorize these things. The very first thing is truly a heart to Jesus, yielded to his word, abiding in him and his truth, and being willing to let go of something. If it is pagan worship that has been masked, that letting anything go that is not of him. And if your heart is truly yielded to that, even without me, without the book, the Lord's going to guide you in
Right.
the truth.
Right.
It's really about having that heart. Are we willing to let go of something that might not be of him, that really is simply ancient sorcery? It's mind, word, body magic
Yes,
is
yes.
at the simple root of it.
And now this is a series, is that correct? Am I remembering that?
Yes, Lord willing, Lord
Okay.
willing. So yeah, so book 2 and book 3 are near complete. Of course, since writing book 1, now I have more information to add to book 2. So
Mhm.
trying to be careful to not. I know I can be a fire hose sometimes, but yes, the book 2 is a unless I flip them, but one book is about the going even deeper because there's even more. Like believe
Mm.
it or not, this is the intro book,
Wow.
so even more to go deeper. Now that you have it's like class 101, then we
Mhm.
go to, and then the other one is all how do you recognize the truth. So it's more of a biblical devotion that for women that I would like that they can understand. I've done before. I used to run some Montana retreats for women called Discern the Lies, Live the Truth. I did that for a couple of years, and what I did was I would show through illustrations and games how to identify the biblically revealed nature of God, like how God has described himself. That's very it's unlike the Eastern view that's slipping through in our culture, in the church, and through the music, so that they can show, whether it's through youth ministry or show their children through these different games to identify, so that they can easily start to hear, wait, God's not this. This is
Mm.
so it helps with that understanding. So
Mhm.
I'd like to. I'm thinking a book. There's also the Lord just praying about other things like a podcast. But just want to get that information out for the women, and then also all the Bible. As you saw, I refer to the Bible often in book 1. I believe if you start with the word, you end with the word. And then, but I want to give more. There's so much richness in the Hebrew and Greek, and then show it to the culture and do more, have a Bible study. So we can say, okay, this is actually what Joshua 24 is about, as for me and the Lord, or as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord, or just different. So much in the scripture is rich when you actually understand the culture and the archaeology of the time. Like the archaeology illuminates the culture of the time, and then you understand the scriptures, and then you pull out some of these, the Hebrew and the Greek, and deeper, and you understand. Oh,
Right. That
wow.
all sounds amazing. So when that happens, will you come back?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love having you. I'm so grateful you spent the time with me today. I appreciate you so much. You're just brilliant. I can't say it enough. So thank you so much.
Blessing to meet you, and thank you for your heart. If everyone is interested, the book is on Amazon,
Yes.
but also my website is sovereignandgood.org. If they'd like to message me, there's a contact.
Sovereignandgood.org. I will make sure that is in the information of the podcast today. So let's see here. Thanks for tuning in to Authors Amplified. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and subscribe for more incredible authors next time.